Hey there, guitar fanatics. We all know how much fun it can be to play the guitar, and let's be honest. When things are going well, you're feeling inspired, you feel like you're making progress. Playing the guitar is one of the most enjoyable and rewarding things I can think of. But there is a flip side, and I hear it from way too many students and guitar playing friends of mine, and that's burnout. Those times when you're not inspired. You don't feel like you're making progress, and picking up the guitar and practicing seems about as appealing as digging a deep hole in hard ground in the middle of a hot summer. I feel very fortunate because the times that I've experienced burnout have been few and far between. I still wake up almost every day excited to pick up the guitar and play. So let's spend a little time talking about why burnout happens, and also discuss some strategies you can put in place to keep things fresh and exciting. I'm also going to show you some cool licks, so this is not going to be all talking. Do me a favor before we get started. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'm Charlie Long. Let's play some guitar. So one big reason that burnout sets in, it's when we quit pushing ourselves and we stop learning anything new. We all get into ruts where we pick up the guitar and we play the same old thing. My kids are pretty good at giving me a hard time about that. It's like, geez, Dad, you're playing that again. So that keeps me honest there. You know, I've got a dear friend who is a really good guitar player. I really don't think he knows how good he is. He gets in these deep ruts where he plays nothing but the same old blues licks. And they sound awesome, but it makes him get really down on himself. To make things worse, he's gotten reluctant to push the boundaries of his playing because he was in a band that was sort of blues-based, and they hated it when he played anything fast, and he really loves to rip it up. And as we've discussed, that just kills your inspiration. It takes the fun out of playing, and that is the very definition of burnout. Now, I love to play blues and bluesy music also. As a matter of fact, I've got an extensive blues course that's available. I've got a link in the description down below. You should check it out if you like what we're saying and you're getting into the blues. But once again, I got to put my own spin on it or the fun just gets sucked out. So here's a couple of killer licks that I came up with just messing around and having fun going from the 1 chord to the 4 chord in the key of A. So A7 to D7. So this first lick is an ascending lick where I'm going to play an A triad starting at the A note at the 5th fret of the 6th string. So we've got A, then we've got C sharp and E. So that's at the 4th and 7th frets of the A string. After that, I'm going to move up a tritone. So a tritone is 6 frets away from the starting note. So that would take me up to E flat. So I'm going to play an E flat triad. So we've got E flat, G, and B. We put those two together. It sounds like this. Then I'm going to move up to play another A triad. So I've got A, C sharp, E, that's on the D and G strings. And then I'm going to play another E flat triad. So once again, I've got E flat, G, and B flat. And lastly, one more A major triad. So we put that all together. And that puts me in a position, remember we're playing over that A7 chord, to move right into D and to resolve to that D7. So check this out. That's a pretty fun lick. Sounds a little outside, a little subversive. Here's another one. This is going to be a descending lick over that same spot, the 1 chord going to the 4 chord in A. You hear modern blues guys like Joe Bonamassa and Eric Gales rip these Eric Johnson style pentatonic quintuplets over the blues. Now we're going to do the same thing but with the whole tone scale. We're going to play 3 notes as the wind up. So we're going to play E, G, and A. And then we're going to play 4 16th notes. We got C sharp, B, and A on the high E string, and G on the B string. So far we've got Now here comes our fives, our quintuplet patterns. We're going to play B and A on the E string, G and F on the B string, and D on the G string. We're going to go back to the B string for the G and F, D sharp and C sharp on the G string, and then A on the D string. That's our second quintuplet. So far, it sounds like this. The last quintuplet, we're going to play the D sharp and C sharp on the G string, A and G on the D string, and D sharp on the A string. And that puts us in position to resolve to the D note and play a lick in D over that D7 chord. Here's the whole thing slowly. Check that out over a backing track. So the whole point here is putting your own spin on a traditional form of music like the blues will make practicing it and playing it a hell of a lot more fun and interesting. Plus, you're going to be forging your own identity. You know, a guy like Joe Bonamassa makes a lot of blues purists mad because he plays a whole lot of notes sometimes. But he'd never have gotten to where he is by being just another blues copycat. And if he'd gone that route, maybe burnout would have set in, and who knows, maybe we wouldn't have ever heard of him. Now, burnout can happen at any level, of course. There's a learning curve at all levels of playing. Beginners probably have the steepest learning curve. If you're just starting out, you're getting hammered with language that sounds like it's from another planet. You're getting asked to do all these motions that feel awkward and wrong, and your fingers hurt, and it still sounds bad. And that's tough to deal with. More experienced players seem to suffer from a kind of burnout that comes from being able to play a little bit or maybe even pretty well, but it seems like you're never going to get to where you want to go with your playing. There's always another scale or arpeggio pattern to learn, or your picking's not working right, or blah, blah, blah. In those situations, I think burnout comes from paying too much attention to the end results and not being in love with the process of practicing and learning. Most of the time when we're learning a skill, we're going to be on a plateau where it seems like we're not making any progress. We're working, we're practicing, and it still feels like we're not getting anywhere. Sometimes it feels like we're going backwards. It just seems logical that if we put in a certain amount of effort, we should get a certain equal amount of progress, but that's just not the way it works. And if we can come to grips with the fact that it's always going to take time to learn something, I mean, really ingrain it and make it ours, then we've got to fall in love with the idea of practicing, or we're always going to be frustrated. Here's something I stumbled upon when I was just having fun practicing one day. It's a cool concept to practice. It's going to help you learn the fretboard, but it's not easy. It's going to take a little bit of time to get it to where it feels natural, but that's the process. I was working on something that one of my favorite guitarists, Alan Hines, had said, and he had talked about moving a series of notes, a musical formula, all the way through a key. So the formula I had decided upon was to start on a note and play up the scale 5 notes. So I'm in the key of D. I started on the D note and played D, E, F sharp, G, and A. Then move that up to E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, and then back to D. What I noticed as I was doing this is that on 5 of the 7 starting notes, this identical shape occurred on the fretboard with the root note of the shape and then a note a 4th and a 5th away, and this is the shape that I got. And like I say, on 5 of the 7 notes of the key it worked. It worked with starting on D, E, F sharp, A, and B. And then I'm back to D. Now, the really awesome thing about these little arpeggios that I discovered is that they work over any chord in the key of D major. For instance, over D major 7. How about E minor? How about G major 7? How about B minor 7? Now, of course, I had to memorize the spacing on the fretboard. I had to practice in other keys, practice on other strings. But now I've got these new patterns, these new licks I can use. And the point of this, I never would have discovered that if I wasn't in the mindset of being actively engaged and enjoying practice. I hope that makes sense. Another big reason for burnout is practicing something that takes you too far away from your reason for wanting to play the guitar. Maybe you have a teacher that wants you to play a particular style or play a particular way that doesn't necessarily interest you, but you go down that path anyway because somebody you trust told you it was right or correct. That's a recipe for burnout. Make sure you're developing skills that correlate with what you enjoy and ultimately the way that you want to play. Here's a case in point and another cool lick for you. Now, I'm a child of the 80s. I love heavy rock, metal. But one of the things I work on all the time is playing through chord changes and the challenge of playing through jazz progressions. It's super fun. But I'm not a fan of traditional clean jazz tone or jazz phrasing. I like some distortion, I like bends, I like big vibrato. But I was messing around one day with the chord progression from a famous jazz tune called Spain. And the first two chords of the solo section are G major 7 and F sharp 7 with sharp 5. We also just call that sometimes an altered dominant. If I was thinking modally, I'd probably make up a line over the G major 7th using G Lydian. Then over that F sharp altered dominant, I would probably use the F sharp altered scale, which is the 7th modal melodic minor, or maybe Phrygian dominant. But for some reason, the tapping lick of Panama by Eddie Van Halen, it popped into my head. You know this lick. And I started wondering if I could get that flavor into a lick over these two jazzy chords. And I came up with this. So here's the lick. You can hear the chords. And the notes are legit because I tapped the C sharp, which is the key note of G Lydian. And I tapped the 4th in the major 3rd, which is the real key tone of Phrygian dominant. And here's the bottom line. It was fun for me. It made practicing fun. You know, I was fortunate enough to have the great Frank Gambale hear me play that tune. And I played that lick and his reaction was, whoa, that's cool. And that meant the world to me. Yes, you have to practice your fundamentals. You have to develop your vocabulary. But approach things in a way that's going to inspire you, not wear you down. Now, 2 more points I want to make before I get out of here today. First, I can't emphasize enough music is to be made with other people. I'm encountering a disturbing amount of students that have no intention of playing with other people. It's like it's nothing more than some skill that they want to build. But to me, that would be like buying a bunch of tennis gear and spending a lot of time perfecting your serve and then never playing tennis with other people. If you're only going to be sitting in your basement practicing scales, I don't know how you could possibly stay inspired. I'll give you a quick example. I played a gig this past weekend. It was a private party, and we played quite a few rock tunes from the 80s that I grew up with. All those teenage memories associated with that music came flooding back. People were dancing, they were having a great time. And to be honest, the rush from that gig, it's going to motivate me for weeks. Find some friends that play, get together, make some music. It's the best feeling in the world. Second, make sure you're maintaining your focus of where you want to go with your playing. It's easy to start meandering off, going into different black holes of guitar learning. I find that I have to sort of stop and refocus every couple of months with my own playing. I'm constantly asking myself, what can't I do now that I want to be able to do? And it's the answers to those kinds of questions that keep you focused and motivated. You know, we're all different. We all get inspired by different things that make us want to take up the guitar. But taking up the guitar is really about trying to find some happiness and fulfillment. If you find yourself getting too intense, too stressed, you're feeling burnout, take a step back. Remember why you started playing in the first place and revisit that inspiration, that fire. Learn to love the process of practicing and learning. Let yourself enjoy creating, exploring, and just being involved with something that you love. I hope you've gotten some ideas here that will help you keep burnout from creeping into your guitar life. Thanks so much for checking out the channel. Like the video, subscribe to the channel because I'm putting out more cool content every week. Work hard, play hard, have fun, never stop learning. Until next time, happy guitaring.